We're just talking about anything and everything and reminding people that that's what we do best. We communicate. That's how our whole human race built everything, and yet somehow every day we forget about that.
No, literally, I was just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. I think the friendships evolve as you grow, right? As you do.
Mm.
Like now I've got so much compassion. I'm like, you did what you could, and I love you for that.
Mm. Mm.
And okay.
And I found recently a box of pictures. My mum had kept this real secret, right? I found a box of pictures from when she was about 19 or 20 at uni. And I was like, oh my God, she was drinking. She was like whining on some guy. I said, "Oh my God, mummy, get down!" Like for real, I couldn't put those two together and say that that's
Mhm.
the same person because the mum she was very anti like drinking, anti smoking, all of that kind of stuff that we see as normal. But I'm like, oh my God, we could have got along if I'd met you then. We would have been the best of friends. But because obviously parenting and life and all that kind of stuff, you have to. There's so many things you kind of have to give up,
Mhm.
whether you like it or not, as a parent. So yeah, it's very weird. It's very strange to know certain things about her, but not be able to
Mhm.
communicate with her even now, you know. But yeah.
That can always be changed, though.
Yeah, it could. But I think it takes willingness on both sides, right? You know.
True. Did you not find that? And maybe this will spark some ideas for you, Vicky, as well. So we receive and behave and treat and everything else our friends like family when we
Mm,
truly are close. In our family, we expect to behave like our friends. Do we treat them as our friends though? Because I feel like we have so much more expectation of our family. A simple example is when your friend comes through and makes, an ass of themselves. You're annoyed, sure, but it's like most likely part of you knew it. But when it's the other way around, it's much harder to accept that your family misbehaved in front of your friends, or at least that's the narrative that you play. So why do we set such high expectations from our family, whether it's siblings or parents? And why do we somehow have less of those expectations the moment it's our grandparents and further? Because there we always go, that's fine, they're from a different time. But to our parents, it's much harder to digest that one.
would you not say though it's something we inherit from them to some degree? Because, I if let's say your parents are the first example of a relationship that you get to see, they teach you how to treat them in some way, shape, or form, right? Because they're informing your upbringing, they're informing your thoughts. Well, to some degree, they're informing what you wear, how you dress, da da da. So, my parents were strict, like super strict, on top of being super Christian too. So it was a whole vibe of respect me, do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
there was no choice but to respond in the appropriate manner. So had they been just like free and kind of hippie in their approach or whatever, you know, who knows what kind of person I would have been. But I think a lot of the time parents inform how children relate to them. And we don't really get the power until maybe we're a little bit older or we start to embrace our own personality and our difference and whatever. We don't really get that power to say, oh, I don't like the way you treat me, therefore I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. We don't really get that because we've seen the outcomes when we misbehave, right? Get punished or things get taken away or X, Y, and Z.
Some
So
form of discipline. Yeah.
yeah, some kind of discipline. So yeah, because of that power uh, or lack thereof when it comes to being a kid, it's up to them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, you said that really well.
Mm.
I think that uh, I don't know what I think. Yeah, I think what this is. Oh, I don't really know. I feel like my brain's gone off on a tangent from the actual question.
That's fine. We're just here to see where conversations can go. There is no point or conclusion necessarily.
Okay, there's no right or wrong. There never is. A friend that I had growing up, her mum was the exact same. She was a single parent, but she was super strict. Didn't let her do anything, and therefore, like, she became like a compulsive liar. Whereas I would never like my mum, and I had a lot more freedom. But obviously, there was a lot of stuff that came from like my upbringing. But I genuinely, I wouldn't change it for the world.
Mm.
This is coming back to, like, I accept that they did everything that they could with the best intentions that they had and the awareness that they had, and that's okay. But watching my friend grow up in a Christian household where she wasn't allowed to do shit,
Mm.
I'm like, wow. And it's only
Yeah.
now that she's got a voice and she'll speak up for herself because she's got a kid now. So it's
Mm.
now
She
I
sounds
see it.
just like me.
But at that age, they're the ones providing the roof over the head,
Mm.
So it's yeah.
You said something so interesting that like you had a lot of freedom, which meant that you could be more open with your mom,
Yeah.
right? So because I didn't have much freedom, I had to be sneaky because I would have to take any tiny bit of, I don't know, so let's say I had to do after school things like netball or dance or stuff like that. But she was the kind of parent who'd said, okay, school finishes at 3:30. Your extracurricular stuff will have maybe an hour or an hour and a half. Be home by X amount of time. And if you're not, it's hell to pay. So things like prom, for example, be home at 10 o'clock, prom starts at 9. And I'm like, well, no. So the moment I'm out, that's it. You're not seeing me till about 2, 3, maybe 4 in the morning because I'm going to abuse the little bit of freedom that you do give me because I don't get any at all.
Yeah.
So that made for a very difficult relationship growing up with her because I'm trying to assert my independence or assert my own personality. She's trying to enforce, like, oh, what I didn't see at the time, which was I'm trying to keep you safe. You're a girl. You're trying to go out and be out at all types of hours in the night, wearing God knows what, which, I mean, I know that stuff doesn't really matter per se, but in her head, she was trying to protect me. But what
Yeah.
it did when I finally got a little bit of freedom, when I had no boundaries, like university,
You
I wrote
rebel.
the playbook on Wild. Okay, I was crazy, absolutely mental at uni. And there is no way I could ever let her see the person I was at uni because she would be
Do you
crazily
know
disappointed.
do you know what the funny thing is? She
Mm,
was probably once you, going back to you finding her box.
yeah,
She probably did all of that stuff. And
yeah,
this is the thing, like, with any friend that comes to you and asks for advice, you
mm,
can give the advice, but if they're not ready to receive it, and we can do
yeah,
everything we can to protect people from
mm,
experiencing it before it happens, but
mm,
most of the time we just need to experience it in the
yeah,
same way. Like, you have to just be a bit wild to
yeah,
then bring yourself back. But
yeah,
when you're not given the option, it makes you more curious to go, what
yeah,
is that? What's that life
yeah.
like?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I hear that. I hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was me, man.
Mhm.
And then now I'm terrified because I'm thinking, okay, if my daughter now comes to me and says, Mom, I want to go X, Y, and Z at all hours, I'm like, okay, now it's like a crossroads, isn't it? Like, am I going to be eating these words? Am I going to be like, oh shit, this is what my mom must have felt like? Or am I just going to be like, okay, go, explore your curiosity, explore the world in whichever way you fancy, but at the same time, you've got to protect them. So where's the middle ground, you
I
know?
mean, I think it's simple. I don't mean it's easy, but I do think it's simple. It's discipline, not punish. There's
Mm,
a difference.
yeah.
Discipline teaches you value of things. So, for example, parents that smash a TV screen, I think that's a bit
Mm,
more extreme. But taken
mm,
away as a punishment, because clearly it shows you that there will be repercussions for
mm,
unreasonable behavior. That has to happen.
mm,
Also, reason and explain, not order around. That's something that my parents, like, there was no such thing because I said so. I joke around to people because I feel sometimes that I'm on the brink of losing my patience because I truly wish sometimes the world would be like I can just say things, people do them, and I don't need to waste time when explaining because by the end of like the hour, you'll still agree. And if not, then that's also fine, but can we just cut it short? Anyway, but with my parents, there was always some form of explanation for most things,
mm,
but also just in general, as a parent, educate. You know,
mm,
it is your child, so the values that you pass on are the ones, and values, knowledge, and skill is the one that's going to support them on these nights out if that's what they need. I
mm,
never had a curfew, ever. Like I know I also uh, fall into like the stereotypical straight white male, so the likeliness of me having a curfew would be very
yeah.
unlikely. But where I'm from, that's nothing special. Like whether you get or don't get curfew truly depends on the kind of a parent you have. Not as much as here, it can very easily depend on cultural context as well. Um, but I never abused it because there was no reason to. Bad behavior was disciplined. Good behavior, um, it wasn't just rewarded. It was encouraged. Like there was value within it, and it wasn't just from my parents. I got lucky. I got that from my teachers. I spent 12 years in the same class with more or less the same people, apart from few that either left or joined at some point through those 12 years. Within those 12 years, there was like 3 installations essentially of teachers, out of which some overlapped anyway. So I would be knowing the same teacher for 8 years potentially, maybe even more. So the whole environment was constantly family-like and supportive. You go on a lot of
Mm,
expeditions, excursions. I don't know, meet other schools people. Like the social aspect of interacting, it was always there. And now I've learned such things by listening to people like Jordan Peterson and whatnot. But I can relate and see what my parents did. That success was encouraged, but so was relationships. And ironically, now they lost sight of it because I remember when my parents were in their 20s, they were truly like me. So there will come a time when I'm going to get them back. But
mm,
because I found a way not to lose it, I truly believe so. But Jordan Peterson, because I mentioned him, once said that a true winner isn't the one that always wins every single game. It is the one that every single time gets invited to play. And I feel that this applies to every relationship, whether it's friends, family, professional, I don't know, artistic, doesn't matter. You might be the best at something, and this is what our parents did. They tried to provide, at least within some things, like truly well. But it's those that found balance between most that seem to fall within this pleasant whatnot. And as I say, it's not just parents or family. It's everyone. It's us as well. As we were saying, learning to forgive because we always would want to be forgiven ourselves. and more times than not, you're misunderstood, not that you've actually done something wrong. So why do we assume that others are different?
How much conversation did you guys have with your parents, or let's say your
Constantly. Listen, me and my
really?
mom, even now, like she always complains that I should be calling her more often. But
Wow.
yeah, we can like as a family we would have game nights and the conversations could go truly anywhere from almost any topic to every topic. We had more interaction between children and grown-ups, not just between me and my parents, but a lot of families that we spent time together, and even in school. I mean, yeah, my parents were very proactive in that regard. Like there were those, they would chaperone in school sometimes, or be the extra car if need be, and those kind of things. So, as I say, they truly invested in that, and that's why they excelled in that specific area. There's nothing that I can say bad about it. Not that I feel like. If anything, Misha, for context, to Vikki, that's my girlfriend. She once said that I said something profound. Obviously, I didn't realize it, but one time she asked me, "What was your dad like?" Or was. And I didn't really know how to describe it because it's so many things, but if I could be as half as good of a father one day as my dad was to me, I would be very happy.
That's amazing.
That's so dope.
So
That was so dope.
whatever he did, he clearly did good, because I have learned, especially in the past, let's say, decade, that is not the case with many people.
No, I think it's definitely a privilege, to that, especially that communication, or even to have both parents in the house, or that kind of stuff, because communication is something I'm learning maybe in the past decade, like yourself, like
Do you know what?
sitting down and talking to my mom
Yeah.
didn't happen. Sitting down talking about sex, sitting down and talking about money, sitting down and talking about, and that's why I get very like awkward or weird when it comes to like certain topics, because I'm not used to being open about those things. I'm used to shying away from certain conversation because of either shame or judgment or punishment, or I don't know. It's nice to hear that it's actually possible to succeed at parenting and be open with your kids and be open and allow them to just say whatever. And there's not going to be a repercussion, or, yeah,
I
it's
think
weird.
it was like a seal was broken, for better or worse. And I do say for better or worse because a lot of amazing things can come out of it, but such events also make a child hyper aware, and that's what I became. That's why, in some manner, I've been, call it mature, or a bit more grown up, or just knowledgeable, or I don't know what this is, but it's always been there for almost as long as I can remember, especially from early teenage years onwards, and I mean very early. And the reason is why, because without specific without specific detail or whatnot, but my dad as a personality, he's the one that I sometimes need to go like, "Hey dad, some people don't talk about everything," because my dad's truly, he'll just talk. He's a storyteller. Hence, I am the way I am. Whereas my mom actually is very private. Like she loves having deep, philosophical, profound conversations. If anything, explorations like we have had today, she would love it. But she's too private of a person to necessarily do it with just anyone, right? So there's been this kind of interesting balance that, because my dad opened that door in some manner, and I can't say that it's the same for my brothers, but at least to me. And mom always wanted to talk. When the door was open, there's no like it's already there, like the platform's there. That kind of bonded me and my mom most likely more together, but it also tore down those expectations that you mentioned earlier, Nicole, of what parents are. They're not gods.
Mm.
And I learned that very early. As I say, for better or worse, I like it. Like I feel like it's given me certain edge in life, as you know, some others feel like such events take away from childhood. I feel like it just made me a child for life with just a bit more of a assertive mind. But yeah, apart from just normal communication, that's when serious communication came in. That's when love, money, loyalty, trust, these kind of topics started being, addressed. And let's say if I start addressing such things when I'm 12, 13, I mature real quick. I still play, computer games, cars, Beyblade, whatever. Or Barbies. I used to play with so many random things, honestly, like, because I was surrounded by, mainly women in my life, so I don't have any kind of weird barriers as to what I am or I'm not meant to do. I do whatever interests me. But yeah, there's as you can see, two sides to the kind of communication. But what I do think they did very cleverly, which didn't leave me, aware and alone, was the way they raised me with my brothers. So let's say if one of us would mess up, would be gentlemen, please come here. My dad would go deep voice and everything. There's is there a problem? So first we have a chance to explain ourselves. If when you're a kid initially, what do you do first? He did it, no, he did it, blame, right? Give it a few times. By the 10th time you're being called gentleman, there's an issue. No, Dad, there ain't no problems. We are great. Because we learn to solve things, between ourselves, but we also learn to rely on each other. Because this builds trust. And this builds that bond that truly should be much more important. And I'm not saying that it's a formula that is set, but I believe your bond with your siblings should in some manner surpass yours with your parents. Just because they will be with you much longer. And if something happened to your parents, they're just as responsible and need to be as capable as you. So that relationship needs to be cherished much more. We cannot live in the past generation. We either need to be currently or passed on, as for example, you call it to, the next generation. So yeah, there's lots of, many things that we could probably be talking, just because we're at an hour and 10-minute mark. We could be talking for a long, long time. Also, Zoom did us a treat and, lifted before you.
Yeah, unlimited. I saw it.
Yeah, so
how about you, Vikki? Because you said that communication was that was like your big, strong thing at the start. How were you with your parents, communication-wise, when you was growing up?
Naturally, I was always more open with my mum. So I would tell my mum things that she'd be like, right, we'll not tell your dad. I'm like, okay.
Oh wow, okay.
But my dad he wasn't like scary or strict. It's just more when it came to money, we couldn't really tell him when we spent money.
Wow.
But my mum, I've been naturally more open, but about sex, not really. It was almost like seen as like a shameful thing, which not as shameful, but obviously when you hear comments like your mum going all like, look at her sleeping about, I'm like, I didn't ever want my mum to think that about me. And not only that, like having a brother that like mine, he was just always fighting, and he paved the way for me so no one would come near me.
Wow.
And this is going back to communication is important in family. I think it is, but I've learned to, going back to what I was saying, I've learned to accept what it is, but more with friends, communication's a big one, because I can fully hold my hands up and admit when I've done something wrong, or put my pride aside and go, you know what, I've actually hurt this person unknowingly, but I'm willing to hear it. And recently I've went through an incident with one of my friends where, like, I've heard something through the grapevine, but he's for me, if he was my friend, he would talk to me. And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with friendships. I'm like, cool, we've had a nice time. I've had great moments with you, and I do not want to take that away or let this one thing ruin it. But I also know that how you're behaving is a reflection of you. It's not me. So if you're not wanting to talk, then fine. And I'm always one to just like amend things. I want to talk all the time, but for once I'm like, no, no. People want to talk to me, they know where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, because there's a lot of emotional capital you have to really spend doing that, wanting everyone to talk at the same level as you or be as open as you, but they maybe haven't walked the same path, so
And that's
some people, and that's
okay.
okay, that's okay. I'm accepting that as well. It's hard, but I'm accepting that because I would rather things just be out in the open. I don't really like
Yeah.
hiding shit. I don't really like that whole thing of like prying information out of somebody. Like, just tell me. I don't care if it's hurtful. I don't care if it, seems rude or it's a painful thing to say. I don't mind. Just say it. But because not everybody receives communication in that way, it's really difficult to strike the balance of like, okay, maybe you, Vicky, me and you could do that, like back and forth, back and forth. And then at the end of it, know that, okay, yeah, we're fine. But if, let's say, Ed is more sensitive and I have to maybe be more tactful with my approach, then yeah, it's just having to just accept it, man. Oh, it's mad.
Yeah, that's been something that's because instantly my guard goes up because I'm like,
Yeah,
when I trust people, I trust them,
yeah, me
and
too.
it hurts that maybe when I do realize that we're not all going in the same direction, but
Yeah,
it's okay. It doesn't take away from the bond that we had, but
yeah,
when I connect to someone, it's like this fucking attachment, but
yeah.
also know that it's the attachment that comes from having an alcoholic mother. So it's a lot of stuff that I'm still undoing.
Mm,
It's constant. It's constant, and everyone that we meet is, in some level, a reflection of us. So they've come in to teach us something about ourselves, and that's a hard pill to swallow.
yep,
That's
yeah,
a hard pill to swallow, and it's just
yeah.
more like rather than getting attached to things, I'm just allowing myself to connect to people when the time's right. And if I
Mm,
had to go against the grain and reach out to these people when it's not right, it
mm,
won't go down well. They won't hear. The communication just won't be the same. So I'm
yeah.
willing to just like wait it out.
Mm,
And going back, this is another tangent, but going back to what you said, Ed, which is that you said that you would sit with your family and play games. That was
mm.
never a thing in my house, and
Neither.
these rituals are important. Like to maybe
Absolutely.
dedicate one night a week where you come together and you just maybe play a game and have that space to talk. That's
Mm.
something that I do want to do with my kid.
I mean,
I
Yeah,
that's
didn't
that's
have
what we
that.
do right now. I go and visit my parents. What do you think we do? We play cards, dominoes. I don't know
that's
what
amazing.
stupid. Like, I mean, Vicky still hasn't visited, so I genuinely urge and can't emphasize this enough. To come visit. Nicole's
Yeah.
recently experienced that, but the vibe that exists in this house is exactly what I have at home, and like, yeah, I've found many tribes, many places. Um, I invest in it. There's this one thing that I know that people wait for friends to appear. Friendship's a two-way street. Just as both of you started this whole conversation saying that it ain't that simple. So I write, like, I will message, voice note, email, whatever to many people. Like, not that there's a specific number per se because it fluctuates, but truly it's about 100 people that I keep in touch almost constantly with. And but it's work, absolutely, but it doesn't mean I need to write to all of them every single day. Some of them we get in touch once a year. That's absolutely
Mm.
fine.
Like me and you.
I mean, we've started doing that a bit more often, so we're getting better. But that's absolutely fine because
Mm.
Yeah.
it's this, Imagine, like, whether it is space or time or feeling, memory, whatever you pick. But imagine all of those within reality, everything circles. Like each one of us has an orbit, of a circle. And some, overlap a bit more, some a bit less. Some are bigger, some are smaller, because different people have different paths, different lengths of time here and everything. That way, you never get attached to the feeling that something's everlasting. You don't even get attached to the feeling that something's meant to last long. It's more about what it means to you. It doesn't matter how long it lasted. I have had things that have lasted for seconds and I will never forget. And I have things that have lasted for years and can't remember shit. Same goes with friends, with family, with anything and everything. Is that as you said, Vikki, of the letting go part, or sitting and waiting, or just allowing certain flow. Yes, but the second part is opportunity comes to the one that's prepared, because what is it? Luck is when opportunity meets preparation. Yes, so you have to be a person that is always ready to make friends, and good ones as well. You can't, even despite the fact that life hurts us constantly, we gotta keep going. Like, a sour face doesn't help anyone. A sour heart even less.
Yeah, let's just not hold on to any shit. I just don't want that. Nicole, I've got a question for you. How does it feel to be a mum? Like, in terms of everything that you've just spoke about, it's like now this is your opportunity to rewrite or give what you didn't have. How does that feel? And accept that you've got your own problems, and she might take that on, and yet that's sort of out of your control.
It's overwhelming, is what I would say. It's like beautiful chaos, like perfect storm kind of thing. It's like two things existing, kind of polarizing kind of emotions at all times. Because on one hand, I think it's the most stunning thing to be able to bring life into this world. But equally, I've always said, I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like my mom. And that's been my running, thought for a very long time. And then the older I get, the more similar I am to her, the more I'm just like, oh my God, what if I'm exactly the same? What if my daughter has the same resentment for me that I had towards my mum? How do I combat that? And it's actually been like, actively trying my best, whatever that looks like, whether that means removing myself from the picture or immersing myself in the picture. At any time, I think if you asked me that when she was born, the answer would have been different. Now that she's at 2, nearly 3, the answer is totally different, because it's a lot. It takes a lot. I think it's not for the faint of heart. That's one thing I'd say. It's not for the faint of heart. It takes a lot out of you emotionally. It forces you to grow. It forces you to confront your demons, whether you're ready to do that or not, because this person is entirely reliant on you. And this person is entirely driven by whatever input you give them. So it's scary, it's fascinating, it's exciting, it's overwhelming, it's fun sometimes, it's crazy sometimes, it's literally a melting pot. Like every emotion or everything that you maybe struggled with your mom, or things that you maybe haven't healed from yet, will be magnified once another person pops out your vagina. It's it's really, I swear to God, I could write a book about how
You probably will one day.
Yeah, I think
It's
so
good.
because yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And she's such a bright kid, and I sometimes get scared that, how much of me does she absorb? How much of my
Everything.
mother does she absorb? So it's like, the more I hold on to trying to not make her like me, I have to equally think, oh, do you know what? I'm actually kind of dope. So that there shouldn't be qualities about myself, considering who I am now, that I shouldn't want her to get, right? But equally, I'm like, please please don't be like me. Be your own person. Be da da da. Da. So it's a constant, like, you're always in two minds. If you're a
You
good mum, by by
you
by
feel
whoever's
like
standard.
this like unconditional love. Like she could piss you off, but you love her because she's so reliant on you.
I think, okay, one thing I will say is no one can define it for you. No one can set a blueprint for you for what motherhood is. No one should anyway. Take everything that people tell you with a pinch of salt. So many people are like, oh, Nicole, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. And I'm like, uh, at one point, I have to figure it out for myself. I have to define it for myself, and I have to make it work for myself. Keeping her at the forefront, absolutely, but also remembering that I'm a person. I'm not perfect. There are days when I'm grumpy and I haven't had much sleep, and she's so boisterous and this and the other, and I'll get snappy or this and the other. But equally, there are times where she'll stop me in my tracks, and I just have to pay attention to her and learn so much from her and just absorb that time. And oh, mate, yeah, it's bittersweet. It's probably the best answer. Yeah, but just don't listen to no
That's
one.
incredible. Yeah, the
Don't
best
listen to
advice
no one.
is no advice.
Yeah, because people will come at you with, this is the kind of mother you should be, but you don't know me. You haven't spent a day walking in my shoes, so you can't possibly prescribe what's best for me, what's best for my kid. So just when the time comes, if that's something you choose for yourself, just define it in whichever way Vicky chooses, whatever way you see fit. you know don't let nobody ever tell you, and that shit hurts. Don't ever let no one tell you shit either about labor is a breeze. Bullshit. That shit is bullshit. That shit was fucking painful. Yeah. Oh my God. I wish I'd
That's
known.
incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, that shit was fucking crazy. I was all. Do you know what? I was so on this natural thing. I said, "Oh, I'm gonna have a water birth. I'm just gonna be so calm and so." And that first fucking contraction, I said, "Where are these fucking drugs now? Give me them. Give me everything you've got. I want to be tranquilized. I want all the kind of shit that you've got. Like, just pump me." Yeah, it was, it was a lot. But yeah.
That's so funny. Oh, that's incredible. You've just got a little mini version of you.
Scary, mate. Scary.
That's amazing.
Yeah, man.
Ed,
Sorry.
go on.
Well, then this is kind of where we can finish. We're an hour and a half roughly mark, just over. Well,
Hmm.
just about
Are
actually.
we?
Yeah, I
Didn't feel
mean,
like it.
I know, right?
Didn't feel
Because
like.
this is one of those we could be talking like
Before we
endless,
finish,
like
I'm really sorry. I just want to add one more thing
yes.
into the mix because I
Hmm.
feel like I just switched from you onto Nicole and we didn't really, because I really think that that was a beautiful thing that you said. And that's something that I've always admired about you, Ed, is your just ability to let go and
Mhm.
your emotional maturity from like, even when I was just not as aware, but you know, when people connect just because they connect, but I just
Yeah.
wasn't in that place, but you always had that freedom within yourself.
Hmm.
Even like hearing about relationships that you've had that have been open relationships, and I remember at the time thinking, how does he do that?
Yeah.
But that's just a level of comfortability and a level of like you accepting what's in the moment, and that's a beautiful.
It's
You're
stunning.
incredible. You're incredible, mate. The way that your mind works, and I think
Yeah.
to hear how you've been raised, it makes sense.
It makes total sense. It makes
Like,
total
yeah.
sense.
I'm,
And I will
I'm very
second that
grateful
too.
for that. Yeah.
I will second that. Having just met you recently, I'd heard about you. Your reputation basically preceded you.
I have
I'd
a
heard about you
reputation.
before I had met you. And do you know, I would say the kind of environment, kind of the way you're like, kind of like a, I don't know, the puppet master isn't the right word,
Yes.
right? But like, yeah, it's the puppet master, right? But it's like you're such a conduit for good, open conversation. And I think some people could easily be overwhelmed by that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know. And when I first, and I don't know if you noticed, but when I was around you guys, I had to keep removing myself and spending some time with myself because this is my journal, right? I was having to like really,
Yeah.
like, just make sure I'm really digesting all of the stuff because I'm not used to, even with some of
Yeah.
my closest friends, I'm not used to kind of that intense, like super duper open kind of way of living. Yeah, it blew my mind. And I think there's such a unique quality that you have that it doesn't matter what kind of person you interact with or whatever the background or whatever, you don't lead with that. You just say, hi. I'm not going to do the kind of basic
Yeah.
conversation. Let's get right to the nitty gritty. And I'm just like, holy shit. I wasn't ready. I was thinking we were going to be real basic, you know, hi, what do you do? Where you come from? Da, 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 da. But it's straight for the jugular. And yeah, it's
Do you know what it
magical.
is? It's someone, who was it? Drew, actually. Yeah.
Mm.
Drew once said we were doing some sort of game slash exercise where we were, I think it was me, Drew, Cat, maybe Kayak. Anyway, so we were drawing real quick within a minute, in an abstract way. How do we see each other?
Mm.
And and then kind of this described what was the meaning and whatnot. And Drew said something very interesting, that I am unapologetically myself.
You are.
And once he said it, I was like, oh my God, like, kind of makes sense. But I think what allows me to do that, and I don't know when this happened, specifically, it could have been, yeah, honestly, I don't know, because there's so many things and events that have happened in my life that have been very grand turning points or revelations. I couldn't name them all, but at some point I realized that I am the constant of my life. Everything changes.
Wow.
I change too as a person. I grow, I mature, I learn things, I meet people. But one thing I learned to maintain: how I feel about myself. Once you can call it, self-love, self-intrigue and exploration, because most of what makes me do things is either something I like or something that has piqued my interest. It's the curiosity that I have. But there's so many things about myself that I like. And funnily enough, it's not that easy to say, because most people, myself included, it's much easier to find things where we fall short.
Oh, yeah.
Trust me, not a single person ever has expressed anything about me that even comes near to how I sometimes express about myself when it comes to critique and or expectations. Again, what has made that, I don't know. But once I found those good things, the things that I noticed not only benefit me, but also other people. Why would I not enjoy life and being part of it and be me in it? Like, because no one will ever be like you. So why would you waste that?
Can I just pause you for a second? Like right there, what you just said. So I made tea earlier on, and then on the tea bags it comes with a message. And do you know what the one that I've chose today?
What does it say?
It says, there is and there was nothing like you, and there shall be nothing like you.
Oh, stop it.
I'm going to say that
Universe.
again. I'm going to say that again. There is and there was nothing like you, and there shall be nothing like you.
Exactly. It's a once in an existence opportunity, not even lifetime. So yeah,
Vikki, please can you just take a picture of it and post it on the
Yes.
on the Ōkami, please.
So
I love shit
I
like that.
apologize because I ripped things up, but I'll show you. Wait, how do I turn it round? I've tore it in half, but you can still see it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love that. Oh, I love that.
It was attached, but I've
Love it.
I will take a photo of that.
That's
well,
yummy, that.
with all this positive energy to maintain it, let's hope that other people, same as us, get the privilege of making friends like these, of being able to talk as openly as we just did.
Yeah.
Because if they do, everyone else that comes after will as well.
Yeah.
This is how we gradually untie the knots, pulled together by our ancestors. Hence, let's talk.
I think it's definitely a blueprint because I can't relate with people on a base level ever again. Since I met you guys and since I kind of experienced that level of just openness, it just feels better, feels more productive, feels more true to my essence to just be like, yo, this is me. It doesn't matter what you think of that, just you take it or leave it, but it's definitely set a blueprint. Even at work, I found that people are just opening up to me now because I've stopped being the whole, you have your work mask and you have your, well, you generally people have your work mask, you're this. No, I stopped all that because I was like, no, these people don't even know me at all. They don't know who the heck I am, and I've never given them the opportunity to actually like me for me or not, and now I'm literally like, it don't matter. If you like me, like me. If you don't, sod it. Yeah. It's dope.
Thanks for joining me tonight. There's a high chance I'll actually split this episode in two because we are solid like over an hour and a half. And I'm trying to maintain these at 45 minutes. Just for, I'm not trying to steal people's days away. Conversations are great, but let's do something as well. But yeah, it's been a blast. I am sure I will bring both of you in for random things in the future, whether it is a talk or artwork. Thank you for supplying some of yours, Nicole. Vikki, if you draw, sketch, or anything like that, feel free to send things to Ōkami, and it will be featured in our posts. And yeah, we're just getting started. We're growing bit by bit. We're reaching almost a year mark since the Ōkami kind of started putting out its content. So yeah, actually, I need to look at it. We could be in a very, subliminal date here today. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ooh.